time to start this next tutorial on how I make my bullwhips with 4 plaited bellies. Now the steel I use is spring steel, 5mm. I buy it from a local spring works. You can't bend this stuff, even when you smack it with a hammer. It's very hard. I used to buy it in round coils and cut it off myself and straighten it. And then I discovered that the spring works that I buy this from are able to cut it into certain lengths for me. So I get it cut into 8, 10 and 12 inch lengths. So I don't have to muck around trying to straighten it out and cut it. This is it here. This is a 10 inch piece. And the first step is to, I'm just going to make sure that this shows through, yep, is to cut a rebate in there with a grinder. I'll just do that now. Take that sharp edge off there. And that's where are we? That's it there, you can see that rebate there. And what we'll do, we'll wrap a piece of leather around that, and that will just fill in that piece there. That's a bit warm. I'll do that now. Now, a piece of leather, I'm going to use a piece of scrap that I've got here. This is the reason I'm using this, is because this is the last of a bit of a nice green hide that I've had left over. But what we'll do is just measure that around there so it fits snugly. Now we'll zoom out a bit. Just cut that out at a long taper to about 18 inches. Like so. You see that'll just fits around there nicely. Like so. And I'll tie that on with a bit of cotton, and I'm using thin cotton here. I just need it to stay there until I plait my first belly over it. and the rest of that I'll tie in shortly when I get to the plaiting to where that is. I'll tie that all in together. Now for the first belly, or with any of the bellies, it doesn't matter what colour strands you use because nobody's going to see them, and that's where the bits and pieces that you have lying around, the bits and pieces of lace and whatever else you have lying around, is where they come in handy. Now you remember in the stock whip I had a lot of strands left over that were cut off the side as I was trimming the strands of the stock whip. These are all 2mm, so with that being 5mm, 4, 5, so 20, so that's 22.5mm. Divide that by 2, so that's 11. So we'll go 12 strands. We'll need 12 strands to cover that. I'll just split these down a little bit first, and then I'll start to plait the belly. Now the first belly is going to be 2 feet long, the second belly 4 feet, the third belly 6 feet, and the last belly will be the total length of the width. I'll just split these down. You've seen all this before, so it's no big deal if I don't show you this. Right, so what I've got here is 12 strands. Where are we? Here we go. All I do is just tie a knot in the end. Now 4 of these strands are 3 foot long, so that they'll go the total length of the 2 foot that I want, and the rest are just indeterminate lengths, 2 foot, 20 inches, whatever. Now what I do with grease, now you don't have to use 12 strands, you can use 4 is adequate for the first belly. If I have to cut out strands, I usually use 4 for the first one, 6 for the second one, 8 for the third one, and 10 for the fourth one, and they're usually all at about 6 or 7mm. Pop this in the vise. Work out which of your 4 longest strands. We can go out a bit, can we? I don't think we need the overhead cam for this, do we? Work out which are your 4 longest strands, the 4 3-footers. The rest don't really matter. Like I said, you can do just 4 strands at 6mm, something like that. 7mm. 6 or 7mm, whatever. Start your plaiting. Now get your 2 longest ones. In the case of you having 4, you wouldn't have to worry about this, but I'm just using that scrap. And start them off. When you've got 2 long ones on either side, it doesn't really matter much, and even if you haven't, it doesn't really matter much either. Alright, we'll just grab any of these. Because later on, what's untidy here is going to be cut off anyway. Just under 3/3 straight into it. It's just basic plaiting, and like I said, you don't have to start off with 12. You can start off with 8 if you've got the strands that are of that width. If you don't and you have to cut them out, Well, you'd cut them to a yoke then. So you just get this till it's started. Tighten them up. These strands are only 2mm, so that's why I've had to use the 12. I think I could have got away with 10, but anyway. Let me get rid of this rule. Oh, phone. That was the grandson calling. Needed to have a little natter. Right, now we're going to slip this in. Like I said, this part here doesn't matter because this will get cut off later on. So we'll slip the handle in. Just leave it there like that. And I plait over the handle because that way everything's nice and even. You get a nice taper. I'll plait over the handle a couple of inches and then I'll get back. I've done a couple of inches there. Now what we do is just I'll get a bit closer. Pull that up gently until it disappears into the plate. And later on that'll be all held in place with binding, because I'll bind the whole lot of this when I do these full plate handles now, these full plaited bellies now. When I put the binding in, I bind the handle as well, and that keeps everything nice and even. Now I'll put the handle back in there, right, and you notice I pull that all up nice and tight first, because if I didn't, there might be some loose strands in there and they wouldn't pull up tight now because it's in the vise. Okay, now I'll just carry on now until I get up to this part here. And then we'll cut this into strips and put it inside itself and tie it up and plait over it. Right, we're at a point now where we can cut this. I'll zoom out a bit more if I can. Right, that's as far as we're going to go. I'm just starting from the point in, cut a thin strip. Right up to the end of the handle there. Do another thin strip. Again up to the end of the handle. What I'll do now is grease that. Grease it fairly well. That's going to be the very first core of your whip. Okay? And then you just set that in there like that. Bind over it. Oh, where is it? Bind it all together. Oh, bugger. I think I'd better plait over that. You see, once you plait over that, that'll just all hold that together. I normally do this in another spot. Where I can stand up. I'll barely see here. Bloody hell. Gotcha. Right. I'll just plait a bit further over that until I get down to about here. And for me personally, I won't even bother tying that in. I'll just plait straight over it. But if you're not comfortable with it just sitting there and plaiting over it, because it'll round itself out anyway, you just hold it like that while you plait. But if you're not comfortable holding it or having it loose like that when you plait, just tie it up and you're in business. Right, I'll just do that. Now I'm up over that. I've put another strand in here because I think some of these might be just a little bit too short, so I'll have to bring them back out. But I'm at a stage now where I can drop to anyway. You can see there's the end of the handle, and I'll drop 2 strands, 2 of the shorter ones. So this is one that I'll drop, and the other one would be that one, I reckon. I'll drop those into the centre. And now we're plaiting under 3/2. With one long strand in the centre that I can pull out if I need it. I think what I might do is cut these into strips as well. I've just got strips in there. There we go. Right. Now I'll just plait this, I'll just keep plaiting this out as it gets crowded, drop in strands. Like I said, if you're doing 4 strands, well, you'd have to tape your strands all the way down to a fine point. You want to get your strands, if you've got 4 strands and you're going to tape them down to a fine point, you would want to put them down to about 2mm, because you don't want too much of a bulge on this end. Now I'll plait this out and drop the strands, keep going until I'm finished down to 4 strands, and then I'll come back and show you what I do then. Alright, now that's down to 2 feet and the 4 plait. All I'll do now is just tie this off and roll it, and then bind the nearly the whole length of that. It's 2 feet, we'll bind it will bind it fairly tight on my hand. You can't bind the belly itself very tightly, but as tight as possibly can without putting kinks in it. I bind it all the way. And I found what I used to do was bind the first belly just down to about there, about 2 inches past or 3 inches past the past the handle, and the next one I'd bring out a bit further, and the next one I'd bring out a bit further, and the next one I'd bring out a bit further. But I did a little experiment and tried it in reverse, because doing it the first way, they used to come out fairly stiff. So I did a little experiment and tried it the other way around, where you bind the first belly all the way and then gradually work your way back until you're only about, I don't know, 6 inches over the handle on the last belly, and I've found that gives us a more even sort of transition. So I'll go and roll this, and then we'll bind it. Right, now for this first binding, I usually do it by hand with the glove. There you can see this, yeah. There we go. Where are we? The handle's just there. To get it started, I'll just wind that on there while I'm hanging onto it. And I'm doing this so I can get this bit into the vise. Right, I've got it to the point where there's enough there to get it into the vise. And I'll just roll this up, because if I don't, it's going to get in the way. Glove back on. You can have a glove. Don't try and do this without a glove. And just rip your hands to shreds. My hands are pretty tough, but I don't stand up to this too well. And gloves wear out after a while, so you can imagine what they do to your hands. Put a fair bit of pressure on it. Keep it tight, especially on this handle part here. Makes it nice and smooth. Alright, I'll do it right up to the end here, and then I'll come back. Right, nearly at the end of the handle. Just push that out there. You want to sort of try and keep this together as long as you can, because otherwise it'll just flop around and get in your way. End of the handle there. Tight, but not excessive. Yeah, well, I can still, I can make that fairly tight. You have to support it with your fingers. I think you'll see in the DVDs that I did for making a whip with the 2 bolsters and 2 plaited bellies. I never used to bind the handle. And I used to do a sort of a crisscross pattern at the transitions too. But I've found that with the 4 plaited bellies, you don't have to worry about it sort of bending off because the sharp angle. Once you start plaiting bellies over bellies, you get a lot of density there. So it's still fairly tight. Mightn't look like I'm putting it on tight, but I am. Go back in the vise a bit more. And I'll just keep going now until I get out to the end. Right, now I'll taper these strands down to virtually nothing. That's 2 feet there. And look at you, I mean, it's up to you. When you're doing this, you might not want to do 2 feet of binding. You might think that's a bit excessive. But for me, I found that that's the, this is the best way to do it. If someone asks, and once you do a whip with 4 plaited bellies, I think I might have you hooked, because if I think just the performance of the whip is just so much better, and just feels better. I wouldn't go back to doing whips with bolsters. If someone said to me, "Could you do a whip and 2 plaited bellies?" I'd have to say, "Well, no, you'll have to go somewhere else." Okay, now I'll roll that, and the next belly I'll cut it with a yoke just to show you what I mean. And I'll come back when we're ready to do that. Right, it's Saturday morning, March the 2nd. About 10:25 AM. Ricky Nelson playing in the background. Life is good. Now I'll roll the belly after I put the binding on, and you can see how smooth that's come out. Nice and smooth. Now we're going to cut the belly out, the second belly out. I've got this piece of hide here, which is a really nice green colour, but I've never been able to get hold of it again, and that's the last piece, so I'll use it for a belly. This belly's 8.17, so 8 mil, that's 4/8 to 32, that's 36. If we divide that by 6, that'll give us 6 mil. So we'll make the strand 6 mil wide, and that'll be a 6 plait for the second belly. And I'll cut them from the yoke in first. Now, believe it or not, I think it's about 5 foot around this little piece of hide here. We're going to make a 4 foot belly, so we only need the strands to be 6 foot long. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 and a bit, close enough. 1, 2, 3. Six. Now for finer whips, this is going to be a 16 plait. I would most probably stretch and bevel these strands, but for the 16 plait, and because this is right out of the middle of the hide, there's not going to be a great deal of stretch here. Set this at 6. So I'll just use it as it comes off the hide. Right. Pencil, pencil, pencil. Mark it off in feet. Now I'll cut the first 18 inches at 6mm. I'll cut the first 2 foot at 6mm. I'll move this camera around a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Bear with me. Still not very good, is it? That's a bit better, I think. You can see there's not a great deal of stretch in that hide. So like I say, I'll just leave it as it is. This is the first day of autumn here in Tasmania. Winter's coming. Doesn't usually get here till about May. It's usually. Right, now we've cut 2 feet, we've got 4 feet to go. We've got to get back down to about 3mm. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, so that means 6mm. Alright, 5, 4, I'll go down a mil every 6 inches, 3, and then I'll cut the last, Jesus, spitting all over the hide. 1, 2, 2.5 feet at 3mm, but of course 2 of those are going to be dropped into the centre because we're going to end up with 4. So I'll show you what I mean anyway. I'll cut the whole lot out. 2 turns. And by doing the bellies this way, someone emailed me the other day and said that they had problems getting the right taper. If you do the bellies this way, it's just a natural taper, I found. Once I've cut these out, I'll split them. You'll see later on as we get longer, the tapers are naturally longer. So even though we'll start the next one out at 6mm and 8 strands, it will run out to 9 feet, the strands. So overall, instead of tapering every 6 inches, we'll most probably taper every foot. If you decide about making full time, you're not going to get rich, I can tell you that now. But it's very satisfying. .2. That's 3. And I'll split these as well. The final diameter I like to end up with, blade's a bit blunt, and yeah, the final diameter I like to end up with is about 19mm for the last belly. And that gives me a final handle diameter of 22mm, which for me is ideal. Not too thick, there we go. That's as thin as we want to go there. I'll just carry this around. See, that's right. That's that done. Everything's backwards in this camera. I think I might have to get a strap and put it on, put the new camera on as a head cam. See how that goes. Right, now what I'll do is put these through the splitter. I'll split it down to, I don't know, about 0.8. I think that's a bit, this is a bit thick now, otherwise we'll end up with a, there's 1mm. I'll split it down to about 0.8 and then we can start plating the second belly. Got more remotes here that you can poke a stick at. Right, we'll just grease this. I think I mentioned it before. Just grease, I don't know, a couple of feet at a time. Grease too much, it'll hang on the floor and pick up any bits of dirt that are there. throw that device. Start the plait over the bit that's going to be cut off later on. I might put a bit much grease on that. You might. It's a good idea to put as much grease as you can into the centre, into the core, because that's what will nourish your whip for a very long time. Because although people profess to love their whips, you'll find about 60% of them don't take any care whatsoever of their whips, and of course over a long period of time they dry out and leather cracks and breaks, and they wonder why. So this will help keep the whip going for a lot longer than what it normally would. The 6 plait, under 1/2 on that side, under 2/1 on that side. Once you've gone past the handle, that's the end of the handle there. I'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, end of the handle's just there. Pull that up tight. If you're doing it standing up off a hook, well, yeah, don't have to worry about it, you just keep on going. But I'm sitting down. Just put that in the vise so the bit of the handle's in there. That'll hold everything nice and steady. Under 1/2, under 2/1 on this side, under 1/2, under 2/1. Alright, now I'll just carry on by rights until I get to the end of this 2-foot section. I should be able to carry on to plaiting 6 plait. So I'll do that, and then come back when I've done that. So when we're down to the 2-foot mark, then you can see that it's worked out pretty well, the tapering of these strands. What I'm going to do now is just drop one strand and carry that through for about 6 or 7 inches. I'll drop the one on this side, I think, and that way we're plaiting just 5. So we're going under 2/1 on this side, under 1/1 on this side. Plait up tight. The strand I dropped was there, so we've got about 3 inches there. So what I'll do now is just taper this strand off in the middle, and then we'll drop down to 4 inches, down to 4 plait. Of course, I've got my scissors here, naturally. There we go. Take out another 3 inches or so. So split that in half and then go back up a little bit, just so you've got a nice little taper there like that. Okay, save that. Can come in handy later on for the next belly or whatever. I think we're starting to run out of tape on this now, up around about the 46 minute mark. Now we're to the end of that strand. I'll just go in a bit. I'll drop another strand now. Now when you're dropping strands in the bellies, it doesn't really matter how you do them, because nobody's going to see them. It's not going to make any difference to the strength of your whip. Tight. It's up there now. And now I'll just carry on. That's about. It's 32 inches long now. So I'll carry on to the 4 foot, give it a roll, and then we'll do the binding. So I'll come back to you when we're ready to do that. Alright, now there's the finished rolled second belly. What I'll do now is put the binding on. Right, now binding for the second belly. This is just about stiff enough now to pop it in there. Yep. As soon as I get enough bound on there to put the handle in the vise, I will. Just gives you a better hold on things and holds things nice and steady. It's going on there tight now because it's starting to squeeze the leather dressing on out of the leather. Handle's just there, end of the handle. Okay. Could go in there a bit tighter. Don't worry about squishing the leather, it'll roll out later on. see that's how tight that is. That's squeezing the leather dressing out of the leather. The tighter the better. Okay, alright, now I'll just carry on because we are fast running out of tape on this section. I'll carry on and do up to the end. I'll show you a bit there and then do the rest. Now we're up to where the handle ends. We'll just push that out a little bit. Now the last belly I plaited, I bound 24 inches. On this one I'll bind 20, I reckon. Once you do this for a while, it doesn't take long. I'll finish that off and roll it. Just a quick note, I'm near the end of this now. I've got about 1.5 inches to go. When you, on your second, third and fourth binding, when you get 2 or 3 inches from the end, still do it tight, but don't do it as tight as what you have been doing at the front or at the transition, because you don't want virtually another handle transition where you stop binding. So if you slacken this off, you'll get a gradual loosening sort of effect on it. I think that's my reasoning anyway. So it's tight, but it's not tight. Okay, now finish that off. Just wrap that around there 3 times. You don't want to do it anymore, otherwise you can't pull the damn stuff through. And that holds it all in place. Alright, I'll just roll this. We've got 54 minutes on this now, so what I'll do is I'll end this video now and put this up as video 1. The next section will cover the third belly. We'll go from there.